Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that, but we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you believe it's July already? Gosh, 4th of July is going to pass us by if it hasn't already by the time this is released. I just really appreciate my sponsors, Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They are my choice for ketones and glucose monitoring. It's a great double check for continuous glucose monitors, which I highly recommend, but also following those ketones. So when we have those little barbecues, we could see if we're staying on track or whether we were as good as we thought we were. So Keto Mojo. And also I would highly recommend going to their website. They have tons of recipe, fitness tips, so much that can help you stay on your journey. Just great information, great lectures. It's all there. They put it all in one spot. So it's a great resource for my patients, and I highly recommend it. Also, Health Code, Get Health, GETHLTH.com. They're doing great work, and they also just came out with a berberine that I really like that has turmeric with it, some anti-inflammatories, helps with sugar control, and helps with the gut microbiome. There's so many benefits that we've been talking about on this podcast with a lot of the experts. So go grab some, and remember, Met Health is our discount code, METHEALTH, and that will help you stay on track and get ready for the holidays and enjoy the rest of your summer. But thanks for tuning in, and I just want to greatly thank my sponsors for keeping this podcast going and for helping bring us some great content. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. I got one of the big speakers to join me today from the Low Carb Cruise. You've heard me yapping about it, yapping about it. We've been we had a great time. Michelle Hall, Coach Michelle, welcome.
Thank you so much.
She was one of the big shots. We didn't know it. I thought she's really nice, but you were like, you guys, it's just amazing how much work you put into that. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like putting up all the balloons and all the what do they call it? The bags. What do they call those?
The swag bags.
Swag bags. Oh my gosh, that was crazy how much good stuff was there. I survived the cruise because of you guys.
Oh, good. That's what we hope for.
I think we froze for a second there. We're good. All right. So yeah, it was amazing. You all did a great job, and your talk was amazing. So tell people who don't know you, like, about you and your story, like your history and what got you to where you're at now.
All right. So my story is very similar to so many others out there, and it started from the time I was young. I turned to food, and apparently that was my coping mechanism of choice. I was put on my first diet when I was 9 years old. And it was because I had put on about 15, 20 pounds in one summer when we relocated from Iowa to Las Vegas, Nevada. And it wasn't, of course, a 9-year-old's not thinking of the emotional aspect of the fact you're leaving your father, you're leaving the family that's been close to you, you're leaving your home, you're leaving your school, you're leaving your friends. And apparently that was when it all started for me. And I just ate the entire summer. I will never forget the look on my mom's face. And this is almost 40 years later, when I walked off that plane, and as fat as I was, she was horrified and she was embarrassed. And the day after that, I was put on my very first diet, and it was a lifelong struggle for me from that point forward. Growing up, I was part of the low fat generation. Like everything was low fat, don't eat fat, don't have salt, don't, everything that is actually supposed to be good for us we were told not to do. So I struggled my entire life, junior high school, going through puberty. Women, or girls, I should say, we end up blossoming and putting on weight and getting bigger, and that happened to me times three. I put on, again, 20, 25 pounds in one summer. And when I came back to school the next year, one of my drill team coaches said, "Oh, girl, you got some serious hips now." And I was like, that was the first time anybody had ever said anything to me
Yeah.
about getting big. So I dressed in black that entire school year. So my mom and my sister thought that there was something like demented with me because I wore black. And it's like, no, black is slimming. So I need to wear black so people don't realize that I'm big. High school comes, we've got a whole slew of problems along with that, not only with self-esteem issues, you've got just insecurities that happen. So I always tried to find the fast way to drop weight because all that mattered was being skinny like every other girl at my school, like all the popular people, like all of my friends were. I was the big friend in the group, even though I wasn't that big, I was the big friend.
Yeah, when you look
So
back
I
now, you see
would,
pictures and go, right? I hear that all the time from people. They go,
oh,
"Gosh, that was so huge," and then you look and you go, "Wow, wasn't that? I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal?"
I had a flat stomach.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, I thought I was big. Holy cow. And I don't think I was more than 160 pounds. And that's at 5'8". So, but I was big. So, I mean, I tried whatever would work fast. It was, abusing over the counter diet pills, Dexatrim. Those were just my
Oh
favorites.
yeah.
Doing the shakes and then
Slim
realizing by the
fast
end of the
back in that
night that
day.
I was still starving. Yeah.
Yeah.
I abused laxatives for a time so that, I figured if what was coming in was going out fast, then okay, then I could eat like I was and not worry about gaining weight. The diets, I mean, the rice diet was probably the most drastic one I did, aside from the cabbage soup diet, which, we know how well that one works too. But it was always about being fast. It needed to happen quick. So I had a tragedy when I was 18, and the week after I graduated from high school, my stepdad unfortunately killed himself. And that just compounded everything else that had happened in my life to that point and made things so much worse. So at age 20, I got pregnant with my son. And let me tell you, when I found out I was pregnant, it was like a free pass for me to eat anything and everything I wanted to because I was pregnant and we were allowed to do that. And yes, I was getting bigger, but that's because I was growing a baby. It was all baby weight. 70 pounds later, it wasn't all baby weight. So I have my son he was a big boy. He was 9 pounds, 22 inches.
Oh yeah.
And I actually ended up coming home 30 pounds lighter from the hospital because I was retaining so much fluid. But then the rest of that weight didn't come off, and I didn't know why not. So at 3 months of age, I stopped nursing my son to get prescribed phentermine because I needed to lose the weight and I needed to get skinny. So I deprived my son of the best nutrients he could have had because I had to get skinny. And that still
What
haunts
was
me
your
to this
drive for
day.
that? What was your drive for wanting to get skinny and also the right now I want it now?
So I am the biggest female in my family. My mom's side of the family, very tall, very lean. My sister, she's actually really short, but she's always been very lean. I was tall, but stout, we'll say. I had my dad's genetics. They've got the bigger hips. I had some birthing hips, let me tell you, from the time I was little. I had the wider shoulders. I just had a completely different makeup than the other females in my family, and there were always remarks made about it. Not intentionally mean, but they stick with you. And again, my mom was so horribly embarrassed seeing her fat child get off of that airplane that always stuck to. And I felt like I needed to get skinny. I needed to be thin like her and it had to happen quickly. It didn't mean she didn't love me anymore. That like, that's ridiculous for me to have thought. But at the same time, you get that little, will it be different if I look more like her than I do?
And was the thing your parents were divorced, and so your
And
dad
of
had you for
course,
the
everything
summer?
had to be my parents split up when I was very little. Like, honestly, the thought of them being together as a couple, I have no memory of it whatsoever. So we lived in the same town until, we relocated for my mom's job. And then I would go back during the summers and spend, 4 to 6 weeks with my dad.
And was that something like he was just permissive, like eat whatever you want, do your thing while you're here type thing? And you celebrate with ice cream and all that kind of stuff. And then that adds up. And then mom's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, and that was the other thing. Like, when I would get hurt, we got something sweet, and ice cream was always the go-to with my dad. I broke my finger when I was 5 years old. After we finished with the emergency room, we went to Dairy Queen. I fell out of a moving vehicle when I was younger, and my dad took me to the hospital, get me checked out. And right after that, we went to Dairy Queen to get me ice cream. Like, that was, and I was a very clumsy child. So we went to Dairy Queen a lot because
I
that
hurt
made it all
myself again.
better.
Let's go. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So then you got back, and then mom's like, okay, we're getting you on the way. So when you were doing these weight loss programs as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, did you have any success doing that?
I did, but I didn't. So I dropped probably half the weight that I had gained. And my mom will even say that my my inability to slim down to what I should have been stemmed from that summer. That's what she truly believed, is that so much of it was like just the fat wouldn't go away. And so then, yeah, I always carried extra weight on me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and who knows that the effect of stress, getting insulin resistant if you're eating a lot of stuff and your insulin goes up high. Now it's hard. Most of us, it takes a while. Like I had that as a kid too, but a lot of people they don't get it till they're out of high school and college, and all of a sudden they get insulin resistant from eating bad stuff forever. So some of us aren't as fortunate. We get it early on, and then we have to fight our whole life to try to get that back down.
Mm-hmm. And I started it nice and early. Why not?
So then what happened?
So, battling my weight throughout my adult years, I did Weight Watchers off and on for probably about 10 years. And, you learn how to cheat Weight Watchers, especially when it went to, the new point systems and you got to roll things over. And so I starved myself on this day because the next day I was going to go to Carl's Jr. and I was going to go balls to the wall with what they had on their menu there. So then I was still within my points, because so long as they fit, then I was okay to eat it. And my husband and I met, we got married, and we got fat and happy. I continued to gain weight, and finally was just kind of at the end of my rope. I had friends who had had weight loss surgery and had success with it, but also had issues that came along with it. So I'd always said, I will never do anything like that. That's way too extreme. I'm not going to cut part of my stomach out and have these potential issues happen, until I discovered that our military insurance would pay for it 100%. That was key in changing my thoughts about weight loss surgery. So we had two options that TRICARE would pay for. There was Roux-en-Y, the bypass, or there was the gastric band, laparoscopic band. They would not consider the sleeve because it was too new. And so they weren't going to pay for that, but those other two they would. So after going to a seminar, I said, you know what? This band thing doesn't sound too shabby, and it's the least invasive. So I'll do that. Even though at that seminar I went to, they had a woman who spoke, who talked about the issue she had almost immediately after surgery. But the doctor said, oh, this is so rare. It hardly ever happens to anybody. And what happened to her immediately after she had surgery is exactly what happened to me almost exactly 4 years to the day I had it put in.
Wow. And you talked about that. What was that happened?
So I got stuck. You know, the band goes around the top part of your stomach, and it is a plastic band that has a silicone tube on the inside. There was a port that was sewn into a muscle in my abdomen that they could put saline in to make it tighter so you had more restriction, or take the fluid out to open it up so that you could eat more. And I would get stuck. Food would get stuck in that little space for me to pass food through. And it was on pistachios. And unfortunately, my stomach lining was so irritated from those pistachios being stuck in there that it actually swelled shut. And this is at about 10 o'clock in the morning. I could not eat. I could not even drink. If I drank water, it would not go through. Everything would come back up. So I finished out my workday, because, you know, that's what we do, is we finish what we start, right? And I decided after work, okay, maybe I'll go to the emergency room. They'll take the fluid out of my band. I'll be okay. By that point, 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, I was starting to vomit blood. They called me back. They did x-rays. There was no bariatric surgeon on call that night. So what they did was they scheduled me an appointment to see him the next day. And that actually made me really happy, because the doctor they scheduled me with is the same doctor who refused to see me a year before because he hadn't put my band in. And that happens all the time with people who have weight loss surgeries. If they are not the surgeon who does it, they're not going to treat you.
Yep,
And I had
that's
no
very common.
idea
Very
what
common. They're
was
like,
going to
I'm not
happen.
touching that because it's someone else's problem, not mine, even though you're the
Yeah.
patient suffering and that person's out of town. Yeah, it's insane.
Exactly. And I had my procedure done in Las Vegas, and we had moved to Arizona at that point. So I didn't have access to my surgeon. And so I was like, yes, that was a win for me, because now he has to see me. And I go through the same exact thing that entire night. I go into the doctor's office to see him. He starts feeling around on my port. He puts a needle in to try and take the fluid out. And he says, "You have no fluid in here." That's weird,
Hmm.
because I mean, I hadn't seen a doctor in 2.5 years. So I thought that I had fluid in my band. And then he pulls out the x-rays from the emergency room the night before, and he looks at them. He comes back in the room and he said, "I need you to walk across the parking lot to the hospital, because we're scheduling you for surgery to remove your band." And I said to him, "Why?" And he said, "It has slipped halfway down your stomach." So when they put this band in, they actually stitch it into your stomach lining. The stitches had all broken, ripped free, and the band was slowly going down my stomach every time I would purge, because I drank water throughout that, 22-hour period. And I argued with him and I said, "No, you don't understand. I don't have time for this. My son's graduating from high school next week. Like, this doesn't work for me. Sorry." And he's like, "Well, you don't have a choice. We need you to go over there." And I just burst into tears, because the first thing that came to my mind was, I am going to get fat again. I had dropped 79 pounds with weight loss surgery, never hit the 100-pound mark, but I got under 200 pounds, which was a big deal. And I just knew, without having something physically restricting me from eating, I was going to get fat. And so we went into surgery. My husband didn't even get to the hospital before they had me in the operating room. And it took them over an hour to remove the band that took 15 minutes to be put in, because he had to fix so many lacerations in my stomach lining. And he comes out to introduce himself to my husband. And the first thing he says to him is, if she had waited another 24 hours, she would have been dead. Her stomach would have perforated. But that was such a rare thing that could happen. It's not.
It's not. I mean, that's one of those darn things, and that's what's scary is people think that's not going to happen to me, and then it happens, and then you're kind of stuck, and you have to go through another surgery. And probably, I'm just curious, like if that thing was slowly slipping down over time, were you able to eat more and more while before you got these acute symptoms? Were you able to eat more at a time than you could the year before?
So it depended on the day,
Hmm.
honestly. It depended on my body's inflammation. Like some days, yes, I could eat more. Some days I could not. And those were the days that I would just go to Dairy Queen, see, look, Dairy Queen, or some other fast food restaurant and pick up a shake because shakes went down without any problem because they were smooth, but they were also loaded with sugar and they were giving me that dopamine rush that
Oh
I
yeah,
so wanted.
yeah. But your weight was still pretty stable coming down, it sounds like. Then you have the surgery. What's up? We got a special guest. That's all good.
Apparently, he
No
didn't read the
problem,
note on
man.
the door.
Husbands, we don't read don't notes. We don't have time for that. Come on now.
Your
No, this
smoker
is how
king.
we roll here. This is great. So, and we'll see if you're telling the truth or not too.
There.
So, yeah, he'll be glad to correct you. He'll come in and go, "Wait a minute, that's not what happened." So then you get the band out, and what happens?
So we got the band out, got home, and I was able to eat everything. I had not eaten bread in 4 years, and I ate bread because I missed it so much. Don't know why, because it's not like it was an immediate sugar rush or anything like that for me, but I wasn't allowed to. So since I was able to, then I did it. And within the first week, I had gained 5 pounds
And
after
so
surgery.
after your band surgery, were you doing anything like low carb keto, anything like that after the band surgery, or were you just eating smaller amounts of everything?
Smaller amounts of everything.
Okay, so you were having French fries, things like that. Yeah, okay.
And I would eat pasta, but it had to be certain kinds of pasta that I could really chew, 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 chew so that they would get through.
Yeah, yeah. So okay. Then after the band, then you gain 5 pounds the first week. Then what happens?
Then it just continued to escalate. And I would go on diets. I would never change my way of eating. I would just diet. I went back to Weight Watchers. I went on various shake plans, for various companies. I joined a boot camp gym and I received zero nutrition from that gym. I just worked out, did HIIT workouts 5 days a week because I had to get skinny, but I never changed my eating. And then I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll try this keto thing because everybody talks about keto, keto, keto. And wait, I get to eat all this fat? Okay, well, let's try it. And within 3 days, I had a massive gallbladder attack and had to have my gallbladder removed with emergent surgery. So I texted my trainer and I said, keto killed my gallbladder.
Mm.
That was
Yeah, I
all
mean
I
that's a
said to him.
common thought, but part of it's like when people go from a low fat diet all those years, your gallbladder's not squeezing, you get all these stones in there, and then you eat fat, and then your body gallbladder squeezes, and you get into trouble. There's that dang diet I did, right? Yeah, I get it.
Yep. So it was all keto's fault. I was fine, except that I had like 175 stones in my
Hmm.
gallbladder. So
Yeah,
that might have actually been the
and
issue.
from rapid weight loss too. Losing weight is obviously a huge factor for that, for sure.
Yeah.
So then you get your gallbladder out.
So then I get my gallbladder out and again, just went back to eating how I wanted to. So back in 2015, actually, shortly before I had the issue with my band, my dad had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. Well, at first they didn't know what it was, and then eventually that Lewy body diagnosis came. So that was a lot to deal with as well. Like knowing, okay, my dad's probably going to die and just not knowing exactly what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, because I was a control freak and I wanted to be able to control situations and I wanted to know what I needed to know. So, of course, I researched the crap out of it. and discovered there's no cure. There's no way to reverse anything. There's nothing you can do. So during this time, I made many, many trips from Arizona to Iowa to see my dad. And every trip was just worse because his decline, it took him 5 years. So it was a curse and a blessing because we got more time with him, but then it got so bad. And so, of course, I'm eating those feelings, eating them feelings. And I lost my dad on October 28th of 2019. I have a picture of me from the funeral that I actually never posted anywhere and never wanted anybody to see it because my stomach was so distended. I looked like I was pregnant. And I couldn't look that bad. Are you kidding me? So that's when most of the binge eating then started. I mean, I would have bouts of binge eating before that, but after he died, it was nonstop. And I mean, to the point I'd be in the kitchen, which was behind our living room, and I'm shoving food in my face so fast so that my husband, who's sitting on the couch 20 feet from me, doesn't know that I'm doing it. I would take food into the bedroom and stuff my face with it so fast because it would help to dull what it was that I was feeling. I didn't know what I was feeling, but it helped. So I thought.
Yeah, it's a
And
drug hit,
then
right? It's a
my,
drug hit, and you get that
yeah,
dopamine rush from that. And you go, I feel better for a second, and then you go, I need what else is out there?
and
Yeah.
then I need it again. And then the depression started, the anxiety got so much worse. It just, everything just compounded on top of each other. And it was like a giant snowball effect. 2020, we all know what happened at the beginning of 2020. We all got locked in our houses. We weren't allowed to do things. We weren't allowed to see people. But at the same time, that was my true awakening. In June of 2020, I'm watching the news. I'm seeing all these stories about people who are my age dying. Oh, they didn't have any problems. They seemed like they were healthy. But then you saw pictures of them, and I'm like, well, I look like that. I'm healthy. I shouldn't have to worry about this. But apparently I did. And it was right around that same time that I can't remember what society it was that had released a study about basically refuting what had been disclosed back in the late 60s, early 70s about saturated fat causing heart disease and clogging your arteries. And Ken Berry started a live on Facebook. I didn't even follow him at that point. So I don't know how I got a notification that he was going live. And I watched it. And I watched it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't have any excuses. I think I need to do this keto thing for real this time. And this would have been my third time. So I sent my husband a text message. He was working in Washington State at the time. And I said, we're starting keto this weekend for real. I'm not cooking you any different food. So I don't care if you want to do this, but I'm not going to cook any different. And his response to me was, okay, I like meat. Okay.
Let's do this
And
thing.
and that was how it started.
Wow. Wow. And that's great. I mean, that's so many people. And those are things that Tro and I talk about a lot on the podcast. That the two, and you're confirming this, so we're not totally out in left field. But number one, falling off the wagon, stress, right? Number two, lack of family support, right? So part of that is, when you start gaining weight, not having someone who's going, hey, let's eat this way. So, making those changes yourself and then taking the forefront and say, I'm doing this thing, right? Like you said, you're a control freak anyway. So your husband's like, she's gonna make me do it anyway, so I might as well just do it. But I could eat meat. Okay, that's an easy sell,
Pretty
right?
much.
Wow. So then what happened? You guys start doing this, and what did you notice? What changed in the first couple months?
So the first couple of months, I mean, we were keto, but I guess you could classify it as dirty keto because we would still use some of the products that, I did net carbs, I didn't do total carbs, but even just those steps within 2 months, the chronic pain that I had been experiencing that it didn't even dawn on me how much pain I was in every single day until I woke up one day and I'm like, my back doesn't hurt. my elbows are okay. I thought I had tendonitis in both elbows for months. My feet didn't hurt. And I was like, oh, okay, wait, this is nice. The depression like that I felt every single day, the dread that I felt in my life was slowly lifting. The brain fog that I experienced all the time was definitely dissipating. And I just felt overall better. Like I don't have a grandiose word to describe it. I felt better. But it was the whole package, not just physically. It was mentally, it was emotionally. I mean, I was still a wreck from time to time, but it was so much less frequent than it used to happen.
Yeah, and such a huge point. I think that's the thing. So stress is the problem, and we get eating in an area where we could deal with stress better, then we don't need cookies to manage our stress anymore because the stress is better. So these things, when Tro and I talked about this 7 years ago now, we've been doing the darn podcast. Uh, People would say, doctors would say, how dare you say, like, you should have your medical license taken for even discussing that mood could get better with dietary change and exercise. And you go, well, it's true. We're seeing it. Like, we're not making this up. People like you come in and say, hey, Brian, I'm laughing again. My husband and I aren't arguing as much. I don't like lose my temper. And it's funny for me because I have couples and so they're 3 months in and I'll ask the husband, so how's things at home? And he'll look at me, like look at his wife and look at me and say, hey doc, honey, like he'll look at his wife and say, honey, you handle things a lot but you don't get as upset as you used to. What do you mean? Like, and then he's like, uh-oh, I'm gonna get in trouble here. But he said, seriously, like you don't like if something happens, you don't totally freak out. You may get upset, but it's not like this huge over the top thing. And so it's amazing how much that inflammation in the brain and being in pain all the time is going to make you be on edge anyways when you're not feeling great and you're like, I don't want to go for a walk because my feet hurt and my back hurts and my neck hurts, right?
Yeah.
Was there weight loss in those first 3 months, or was it mostly how you felt, or both?
There was definite weight loss. It wasn't like so many people will talk about the whoosh that happens at the very beginning. My whoosh was actually my stomach. Like my stomach, which had always been so distended, was not as big as it used to be. I think maybe I dropped 20 pounds in the first 3 months. My husband, he dropped 40.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so
Wow.
I couldn't let myself get mad because that's good. He's doing great. But it was more of the just I had so much inflammation happening that I had no idea was a thing. You think of inflammation, you think of, you sprain an ankle, you break something like, acute inflammation, not chronic. And I'm like, what the heck is chronic inflammation? That's a thing. And yeah, apparently I was the poster child for it.
Well, and so over time, so how do you, from this, having struggles your whole life, how do you get to be a coach? Like what motivated you to say, hey, I should do some coaching with people?
Oh boy. So going through my own journey and trying anything and everything to again make it happen fast. I never lost that. It still needed to happen faster. I hired a coach myself. And that is really what started redirecting my energy and my focus was not about eating the right way and as we say doing it hard enough, not working out to extreme to the point where you're injuring yourself and you have to keep doing this or the weight's not going to come off. That he focused on mindset. And I was just like, this is so stupid because I thought it was stupid. And then again, Dr. Sivas and Bronson, who was my coach at the time, are both kind of talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. And Sivas is talking about food addiction and about coping mechanisms. And I watched a presentation of his and bawled almost the entire time because I saw myself in that presentation. And I realized, okay, this isn't going to get any better until I figure out what the heck is going on up here that's driving it. And that was probably, honestly, a year-long process. Figuring out my why, coming to terms with the past trauma that I had dealt with as a child, and letting it go. My father-in-law was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma in July of 2022. And I knew the way that we were eating was going to help him in his cancer. It was going to help fight it. And we had a conversation with him while he was in the hospital. He was down for it. He was game. Went to my mother-in-law and told her, look, we're going to cook your meals for you while dad is undergoing chemotherapy for the next 3 months. Let us take care of you. Let us help. She said no. And I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought with my mother-in-law. And then ultimately my father-in-law too, because he just wanted to appease her. He didn't want her to be upset by what we were saying. So he went along with it. And I had a conversation with my husband and I said, okay, I need to become a coach, because if I had credentials, they would listen to me. It couldn't have been more far from the truth, but that's what I thought at the time. And as I started going through it, it became abundantly clear that the reason I wanted to become a coach is because I wanted to help people that actually needed and wanted the help, but didn't know how to do it right.
And that is such a huge part of it too, and I've been thinking about, I've been inspired by all your talks, and now I'm thinking like my next talk I give, what do I want to really focus on? And it's the how do you, like Tro and I have been discussing this, like how do you help the person who's hard to help, right? Some people are more helpless, some people have been through a lot of stuff, and they can't just stay on track. It's a hard thing.
Yeah.
And so, how do you get your focus, and how do you just reach that person? And I think the thing is that I've noticed the biggest failures that I've had with patients will be, first of all, if your husband drags you in and goes, look, work with her, she needs it, like and it's like you're not bought in. Like you have to be bought in, even with we talk about with hypnotism. If you don't believe stuff, like if you don't believe that smoking is bad for you and you really enjoy it and it's your thing in life, it's not going to help you. And a good hypnotist will know that. You have to believe like this is not good. What I'm doing is not good, and I have to make these changes. So you're right. And that was part of my frustration being in the standard model, working 16, 18-hour days. And I have patients, I go, oh, I can help this person. They're going to get diabetes. If I see their numbers and I know what's coming and I can prevent it. So I would work through lunch every day, and 90% of the people didn't care. They're like, just give me the insulin and I'll have cookies. And like, why do I have to change what I'm doing? I want the quick fix. It's like, well, this is going to be, here's what's coming. And so it's hard. And you're right, though. Even with credentials, like, you think my family's going to listen to me? Like, I have one of my brothers got diabetes and he goes, oh, Ivor Cummins is brilliant. I'm like, we're saying the same thing. We're talking the same language. It's just that you're hearing it from you can't be the messenger sometimes. It has to be someone else, right? So you just weren't no matter how much credentials you have, some people just aren't gonna listen, because it's hard to do too, to make a lifestyle change. And it's scary.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the most frustrating part was, buying books for them to read and providing them with research and stuff like that. It didn't matter. And, he went back to eating the way that he ate after he finished his treatment in December. In January of 23, he was declared in remission. He rang the bell and everything. And 2 weeks later was back in the hospital, and it had spread to his spine, and he was given a terminal diagnosis 2 weeks later. And unfortunately, in April of 23, he passed away.
Yeah, and you always say, what if, what could we have done? How things would be different, right? And it's hard, and there's always guilt and frustration and bitterness, all those things, and that affects us too, because you go, gosh darn it, what if we would have tried that? Once you tried it, it doesn't work, at least you tried it. You try to do the best you can, and it's hard when you don't. It's hard. It's a hard thing, especially as you're older and you're, it's kind of set in your ways, and these, like Coach Jessica's talking about, we have these strongholds, these false beliefs, because we've heard it so many times. It goes, how to be true? Everyone said that. Well, it's not true. Here's the data. Here's what the science shows. Here's what your clinical experience shows, and that's why it's so hard to break these paradigms, right? if the rice diet worked, everyone would be doing that and we'd all be skinny, right? You look at stuff like that and you go, okay, the rice diet, I mean, I've read about it because it kind of at first I thought this is really interesting. People did lose weight and reverse diabetes on the rice diet, but they were eating like 300 calories a day because it was terrible to eat and they were miserable all the time and their suicide rates were going up and they hated life and they're fighting with everyone and they all went off it because they go, it's too much. I can't deal with this. I want to have something else. Like
Yeah.
people complain about, I couldn't imagine eating steak every day. Could you imagine eating rice every day all the time and that's all you eat with nothing on it? No, that doesn't sound like survival to me. It
It
doesn't
was
sound like fun.
horrible.
Yeah. So then how has the coaching been? And now you and Coach Bronson are doing stuff together, it sounds like.
We are. So yeah, he kind of adopted me, when I told him during my coaching with him, I told him, "Hey, I'm going to start doing this." And he was like, "You're going to be a perfect coach." Because of everything I had experienced myself, because of the crazy path that my own journey has taken, even just in, since 2020, that he's like, you have so much to offer just based on your own experience, that do it. And I want you to sit in on these group calls that we have in our program and just look at it from a coach's perspective. Don't say anything, just watch. So he really got me going as far as how to listen and interpret and start to become a coach. So when I became certified and decided I was ready to start taking clients on myself, he invited me to become a coach with his boot camp program, which of course, yes, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And it's been a year that I've been coaching under Bronson now, and I've actually taken over the boot camp program, and I have my own one-on-one coaching program with him as well. And then we've also got something else in the works that we're still trying to fine tune, but with my history of the weight loss surgery, we really wanted to design a program specifically for those who are either considering weight loss surgery or who have had it and are now in the process of gaining weight back, which inevitably happens, and trying to course correct essentially. I am not 100% against tools. I'm not. Some people who have significant issues might need the tools, but they also need to be learning everything else in the process and not just depending solely on the weight loss surgery, the injections, whatever it is that they're doing. Everything else has to come into play as well.
And looking at the emotional aspects of that and our focus on that, how we have to figure that like why are we eating so much, right? It's not this formula where you go calories in, calories out. Okay, all you do is eat less and exercise more. Yes, ultimately that's correct, but you have to go, what are the hormones playing? What are the psychological factors? Why am I eating when everyone else is like, yeah, your husband's sitting there and you have to go sneak food? Why is that happening to us, right? And there's so much that we just don't know and that we have to learn. So that's why I think it's really important to have open mind and hear stories like yours. It's important for people to hear. It's like, okay, like how do you shift gears? How do you change like and it's tragic. They do a surgical procedure on you that you go through all this stuff, but no one says, "Hey, how's life? How's things at home? How are the kids? How those kind of things that really are critical to what we're doing." So having coaches, I think it's just so important to have someone in your corner that knows like, just get up, let's go. I can move you forward and figure out. Do you need the stick to motivate you? Do you need someone to give you a hug? Do you need a hand on your shoulder? Like, how do we figure it out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was thinking about this morning. Some people need that Rocky Balboa, Mickey, like, get up, you bum, right? That kind of thing, or kick you in the butt. And other people need Mr. Rogers to hold their hand and cry with them, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what's so amazing, like different coaching styles and all these things that how do we reach that one person in front of us?
Yeah. And if anybody had ever approached me with regards to what is it that's making you eat when you're stressed out? Why are you eating when you're sad? Why are you eating when you're happy? Why are you eating when you're excited? Why is every emotion you experience driving you towards food? If one person had even approached that subject with me, would I have ever had the surgery done? Would I have fought my entire life to control my weight and get these strongholds under control? Had even known what it was, but it just wasn't addressed. And I had one very short meeting with a therapist before I had my surgery that she cleared me because I'd be good to go knowing that I could only eat so much food. There was no follow up. There was no, hey, let's look into why you're doing the things that you're doing. Who knows what that could have changed? But, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Now I know. And now I can help others to avoid a similar fate that I did.
Well, do you have any like quick tips or little things that tricks that you use with people who say, look, I have a stressful day at work. My boss is a jerk. I get home and I just want to eat cookies when I get home before dinner's ready. Or, I need a, couple of drinks at the end of the night. Are there certain things like, how do we refocus that instead of grabbing food first? Like, are there certain things that you recommend to people that may help to alleviate some of that?
I, I'll tell my clients who, again, have very stressful jobs, stressful home lives, stressful families, whatever it is that it may be, is before you do anything, stop. Just stop. Catch it. What is it that you're feeling right now? You're feeling overwhelmed? Okay. What can you control in this situation right now? Control what you can control in it, and what you can't control, you have to let go. We as women are expected to handle everything and multitask. Do you know how much I hate the word multitasking now? Because it did so much damage to me. But women are expected to do it. So I tell them to stop, essentially remove themselves from the situation, whether it's physically or just mentally, and put themselves into a more calm place in their mind. And that's a lot of where the why. What is your why? Why are we doing this? And I mean, we go beyond what's why. We have 7 levels we have our clients go through. I mean, we get deep, because the deeper you get, the harder you make it for them. It's going to be the thing that pushes them through those tough situations. Think what your why is. So catch it, change it, and move on.
Yeah, I think that's so
Is this
critical.
something that should be upsetting me? Is this something that I need to grab a cookie to deal with? Is this something that alcohol is going to help fix? Probably not.
Yeah, and especially when you're on your journey, if you knock yourself off and then it's harder to get back on and all these things. And some people, they have one drink and they don't stop for a month. And some people, have one cookie and they can't stop for 2 weeks. So it's really, or I'll wait till Christmas. I'll kick it down. I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm too stressed. I got too much stuff going on, and I hear it all the time. I'm too tired to exercise. Well, if you exercise, you won't be so tired. Trust me. Let's try this.
Yeah,
Do a 2 minute walk today.
precisely.
Can you do 2 minutes? Can you do stand up and sit down? And so we just interviewed Nurse Cindy this morning, and it was amazing. But she says, look, every day I get up, I sit on the ground, stand up. Sit down on the chair, stand up, do squats for a few minutes, because she knows, and people end up in nursing home when you can't get up off the ground, you can't get out of a chair by yourself, right? So, all these things are so critical. They seem so ridiculous, but doing 1 minute of exercise several times a day is going to be better than not doing anything at all. So it's just figuring out what works for you in your
Exactly.
crazy life, and how do we, I tell people sometimes, like, okay, just take a breath right now for a second. Like, let's just take it down, because you're stressed and tense and you're flying all over. Okay, let's take a breath and let's think about some good stuff. What's good? What good happened this week, right? And so sometimes just focusing on that for a few seconds, your breathing stops. You can see everything change in someone's countenance and their body and everything. So it's so hard. And and the other interesting thing I read or heard at a conference was that um, no animal eats when they're stressed except humans. Like dogs, if they're stressed, they won't eat. They'll walk around, they won't eat. Like if they're stressed,
That's
literally stressed,
true.
they won't. And like deer's not gonna go, oh, lion's chasing me. Let me stop and grab something to eat. Then I'll take off running, right? So it's that it's not natural because the body is shifting all of your supplies out to your muscles to run away, and you're trying to eat at the same time, and your gut has nothing. And so irritable bowel syndrome, all of these gut problems, and you say, okay, let me get my
Yes.
stress level better and see if I digest better, right? We all know irritable bowel. Anyone who has it gets worse when they're stressed out. And you go, okay, maybe I got to work on the stress and
Mhm.
not say I need three more pills to handle this irritable bowel, right? It's just amazing how we're mismanaging everything in medicine these days instead of saying, let's look at the root cause. Ivercom is going back to that. Uh, you know, what's really going on? And I think what you were
Yeah.
talking about in Coach Jessica is like, let's get to the root of the problem. It's not just because you love the taste of cookies, right? There's way more to that. The emotional attachment we have to certain things, and trying to throw food away. It's like it's really hard, right?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me. This is awesome. How if people want to track you down, how do they track you down?
So you can find me on Coach Bronson's website, which is www.coachbronson.com. I have an Instagram page, which is keeping us keto, keeping underscore us underscore keto. I also have a YouTube page of just keeping us keto. And then I do have a private Facebook group for people that are training with me.
All right, cool. And just send me that stuff, and I'll put links in the show notes and all that kind of stuff so everyone can find you. Now I have to ask you the hard question at the end. What's life's best medicine for you, Michelle? When you're going through hard times, when life's tough, when you're having a bad day, or what gets you out of bed, those kind of things. What would you say is totally important in life to pass on to my listeners?
It's changed through the years, but right now, what gets me out of bed, what brings me peace is my morning routine. Actually, I get up, I go out our front door because I rise with the sun. I am up by 5 a.m. every morning. I go out onto our front porch. I sit on the porch. I face the mountain right outside of our door, watch the sun come up. I do my daily devotionals on my Hallow app. I do morning meditations, like women's meditations, and I do my morning prayer. And I start the day with gratitude and positivity, and it carries over for the rest of the day. I'm not saying I never have bad days. I do, but I handle what is thrown at me so much easier than what I used to do, which was something bad happened. It's a crappy day. Just write it off. It's awful. Is it a crappy day, or did a crappy thing happen and you're letting that set the tone of the day? No, not anymore.
Man, that is gold wisdom. That is so important. It's so true. Start out with some, because a lot of us, we wake up first thing, we grab our phone. What happened in the news? Did someone die last night? All these kind of things. And we wake up in that
Yeah.
state. And I have friends that one of my good friends I tease. As a matter of fact, I have to call him tonight. But I'll say, what's wrong? He's in a bad mood. Someone cut me off on the way to work this morning. I'm like, and you're still upset about that? Like, that person's living their life somewhere and you're upset all day. Like it's amazing like that, those things. And so when you look at the good and you go, okay, that person's having a bad day, they cut me off, whatever, no biggie. You just go on with your life, and those things
Yeah.
are so, like, it sounds so silly, but it's so important to wake up. You have your That's what I do in the morning too, especially when I'm in Arizona, where like every morning my wife and I get up, we go out there, we either go for a hike, we sit and have our coffee together, do our devos, and enjoy the nice breeze. You hear the birds go by, whatever it is. Yeah, it's amazing just to have that little bit of peace, that little serenity, even if you're going to have a crazy day. And I was reading something the other day, and it was saying like no one has bad days, it's character development days. Right. So those are the days when you have a really rough one. You
There
go,
you
yeah, I
go.
developed some character today because I got through it. And like I learned stuff today and things I don't want to deal with again. So we all have
Yes.
to have character development days sometimes, unfortunately. But, counting your blessings and just enjoying the moment. Take the breath out of the craziness in the world and enjoy it. And don't worry, you can't fix it all. Right. Some of us want to fix the world, but we don't do anything about
Absolutely.
it. But if there's something you could do about it, do it and go for it. But if you can't, then say, okay, I'm not going to worry about that. It's not my problem. So awesome. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to, so we get to hang out again next June, right?
Yes, sir. We
Oh, we
do.
get to hang out before that for sure, but in June for the
We
low carb
definitely get to
cruise,
hang out
Alaska.
sooner than that, but we will be hanging out next June.
And that's one of the benefits of being in Arizona more. I get all these cool friends over there. We get to hang out, have barbecues and all that kind of stuff. And then And then we'll be talking more about the low carb cruise as it comes closer. But if you can plan now, people, get on there while you can. I'm sure there's
Yes.
still spots and it's going to be great. It's a fantastic time. I had just went on my first one, and pretty amazing. Great people, great time, and you get to see glaciers and all this fun stuff.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. And we are filling up quick. I mean, I believe as of 2 days ago, we were at 225 that have already signed up.
Wow.
And
How
we
many
are
of
a
those?
full year out.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I already got like information on everything. Do you know how many people that were on this trip would come back again?
We have a lot of repeaters that are coming
Yeah.
back from either this past year or the year before. So some people, if it's back to back Caribbeans, they'll say, okay, well, you know what, I'll do a different one. But when we said Alaska, they haven't done Alaska since 2017. So everybody got excited about Alaska. And we
Wow.
started dropping some of the speaker names and they got really excited. And when we finish our presenter list, I think it's going to blow up. So yeah, we're very excited, and it's going to just the whole experience with the people, the camaraderie, the experts, the scenery. I mean, we're going to be freezing our butts off together and loving every second of it.
Well, I've been reading on that. If we're in the cold environment, we burn more calories that way, right? Your body's trying to stay warm. So yeah, we're really going. We're doing cold immersions. I'm not jumping. I'll let Tro jump in the water if we can drag him along. But yeah, I'm excited about that. And yeah, if you can make it, people, make it. We had a blast. It was a fun time, and it was a life experience for sure.
Absolutely. So much fun. And I got to meet you.
Awesome stuff. And I got to hear you talk, and I got to get you on my podcast, so it's all good. Hey everyone,
I
hey,
love
thanks
it.
for your support. Thanks for listening. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Take that breath. Get that moment in the morning or in the afternoon when your boss is being a jerk. Take a breath. Think about what you get to do this weekend, whatever. Just get yourself in that spot. And be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and go out there and have fun. Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.